Hello, and welcome to Who Are America's Heroes? I am Dr. Richard Reichel, the producer of this program. In every episode of Who Are America's Heroes, we will examine the lives of men and women who have made serious and important contributions to make this world a better place to live. When you hear the word hero, what comes to mind? Outstanding sports athletes, TV or movie actors, musicians or favorite recording artists, billionaires, financial experts, perhaps high-tech wizards or political figures, various types of celebrities. These individuals certainly are successful in their areas of expertise, but are they genuine heroes? Do they actually sacrifice everything they have, perhaps even their lives, to help others? This program will focus on individuals who have set aside fame, glory, and financial gain to be bright and shining lights for humanity. And now our host of Who Are America's Heroes, Joanna Bates.
Hello, I am Joanna Bates on Who Are America's Heroes. Today I am fortunate to have with me Ron Brown, the founder and former chairman of the Chinese Agape Foundation. Ron managed the foundation for 18 years before resigning as chairman, and he has begun a new work called Save Asian Souls. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
And Ron, what is human trafficking?
Human trafficking is the process by which recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, all the forces that are involved in getting the person from one country to another country. And it's usually from their home country where they are found. The traffickers will promise many things to the potential victim in form of saying, you can be in a movie, you can be anything you want to be, we'll give you a job. Many false claims, a lot of deceit. But finally, they come to the point where they will convince them, and they will be used in prostitution, they'll be used as slaves, and then totally just thrown away, or their organs will be taken and sold on the black market.
Unbelievable. And which countries are involved with human trafficking?
The major countries that are involved in human trafficking are Asia, which is composed of India, which is about 5 million, Cambodia, about 3 million, Thailand, about 5 million, China, 300,000, Nepal, approximately 200,000 per year are trafficked for these areas.
So Asia is a major country with human trafficking.
That is correct.
Once recruited in Asia, where do these victims go?
Well, eventually they will end up in Mexico, and they'll cross the border into the United States. And they will become prostitutes in most cases. And these are young girls that are coming in across the border and becoming part of the trafficking in the United States.
What is the average age?
Average age is 14 years old.
Such a young age. And how and why do they become victims of slave trade?
Well, there are several reasons. The main reason is that, number one, they are poor. They live in poverty. They live on approximately $1.25 per day. They have no education. If they have education, there's probably a 5th grade education. They have been rejected by their community. They've been kind of ostracized in population. They are usually depressed and discouraged because they don't have work, they don't have income. It's a very hard life. So they pick on these people who are very vulnerable to them, the recruiters.
How much money is made by crime syndicates?
Worldwide, it's about $32 billion. And each one of these young girls that becomes a prostitute will produce an income of approximately $21,000 per year for those who own her.
And can you explain to me what a recruiter of slave traffic is?
Okay. These are professional recruiters that go from, like Japan, to the Philippines, because most of the brothels of Japan, which is 150,000 prostitutes operate in the brothels of Japan, and the recruiter will go to the Philippines and he will make announcements, and he'll get the word spread around that he is looking for young girls to be involved in movie making, involved in jobs, false advertisement of jobs. Sometimes the recruiter will actually marry the young girl and take her back to the country and then sell her for as low as $25.
How do you find these victims of slave trafficking?
Okay, we have an organization of people on the ground in these countries like Cambodia, which is a hub for the trafficking industry. And they will find the actual victims because they know the community, they know the people, and they know which girls would be very susceptible to trafficking. So they will let us know, and then we will go and pre-qualify them.
And these victims are mostly children.
Yes.
Okay. And which countries sell the children?
Okay, all Asian countries primarily sell them. Now, there is some trafficking from South America, from Central America, some from Asian countries, well, the Mideast, the Arab countries, but it's very small. So most of the trafficking comes from the countries like India, 5 million, China, 300,000, Nepal, about 200,000 per year, Cambodia, 3 million, Thailand, approximately 5 million. And you add all this together, and you get a total of 27 million that are trafficked.
Can you describe slave activities?
Okay, the slave activities primarily are involved principally in the country of India and in Thailand. And these are two countries who are not meeting the standards set by the United Nations as combating trafficking. Therefore, in India, a child that's 8 years old can work in manufacturing bricks. And they do work 14, 15, 18 hours a day. They are permitted to sleep and they get a little food. But in Thailand, where they work in the rubber plantations, they're moved down into the rubber plantations. They live in the rubber plantations. And if they try to escape and get out, they're killed.
Can any of these children escape these
No.
slave camps?
No, not really. It'd be very rare.
And Ron, tell me, what is your goal?
Our goal is to find the potential victims of trafficking in their home country and to give them an opportunity to have a life, to have an income, to have enough education and enough self-confidence to live and survive on their own. And that will take us having a shelter for them, a safe shelter, to have vocational education for them, and to provide them with the necessities of life so that they can survive.
What's the cost of your program?
It'd be $30 per child. That will cover their shelter, their food, their clothing, their medical care. Most of them are not receiving any medical care because they have no money. There's no way for them to pay for medical care. And we will also try to teach them the very basics of living a successful life.
Absolutely. And is this cost of $30 monthly?
Yes, it's monthly.
So really the rate of maybe going out to dinner one night, and how will you raise these funds?
Okay, we will find sponsors, just like we found sponsors for all the orphans in China for 18 years. And the way we find the sponsors by, like this program, by the website, by personal contacts, and I'll be traveling and speaking at different locations at different times and getting people to sign up as a sponsor for an individual child.
And how do you find these victims of trafficking?
Okay, there's a criteria that we know to look for, that these are children which are very vulnerable to trafficking. If they are living in this severe poverty, they have no education, they have no job, they have poor health, even their body language, they look down all the time. They don't look you in the eye. You talk about police or the authorities, and they become very afraid. They are the rejected people of the world. So by these criteria, we'll be able to locate them and get them into a shelter.
Do you have these Asian governments cooperating with you in your efforts?
There are some Asian governments that will cooperate, and the United Nations has a standard for their cooperation. But the problem is that in Asia, the corruption in third world countries is unreal. So in many countries, like in China, for example, approximately 200,000 are trafficked from China every year into prostitution. And they're primarily purchased by the Russian mafia. And they will pay as much as $10,000 for a girl to go back to Russia. Now, sometimes she goes back and she's the wife of someone, but most times they are in prostitution. So the government will get a portion. Some of it will go in their pockets for every girl that leaves China. So we don't expect to have a lot of cooperation. In fact, that'll be one of our greatest hindrances, is the government will not cooperate with us.
I understand. And for just $30, we can help make an impact.
That's correct.
What kind of reporting systems will you be using?
Every 3 months, we'll send a written report by email to the sponsor. It will tell about the child, how they're developing, how they're progressing, and how they're going to be eventually able to sustain their lives. And then they can also write to their child, and the child will write to them and communicate back and forth.
Thanks, Ron. We will be back with more on Who Are America's Heroes right after this. Human trafficking is the second largest crime in the world next to drug trafficking, and a $32 billion business involving 27 million people. Fight this horrible crime. To give potential victims a better life, call 1-678-877-6300 or contact Save Asian Souls at save-asia-souls.org. No human desires or deserves to be a slave or prostitute. Millions today have no choice. Welcome back to Who Are America's Heroes? I'm Joanna Bates with Ron Brown, founder of Save Asian Souls, and also joining us we have Julia Ng, the Managing Director of Chinese Agape Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Julia, can you tell me how you became involved with Ron and the foundation?
Yes, I met Ron about 5 years ago when he visited my church in Hong Kong. I was so impressed with what he was doing that I began to sponsor 2 orphans. And by the end of 2013, I left my company and became a volunteer with the foundation, because I was so inspired by his sacrificial love for children in a faraway land that he is not even related to, and some of whom he had never even set eyes on.
And what are your specific duties?
Currently, I'm the managing director for all the orphanage operations of Chinese Agape Foundation in China. So I have responsibilities for all aspects of the operation, including safety, HR, financials, and basically everything to do with the care centers. I am assisted by a director at each of the care centers, and they are supported by a small staff of teachers and cooks.
Have there been significant achievements?
Definitely. This program has changed many lives. We have children who have grown up with us who are now in universities or graduated. For example, we have a lady in Guilin. She is now interning as a lawyer, and her younger sister is training to be a doctor in medical school. So yes, we are blessing many lives, and that's the reason I chose to be involved in this non-profit charity instead of a profit-making commercial organization.
Absolutely. And what would you like to tell the people watching?
If you have the ability, please support Save Asian Souls, because you can change many lives and be part of something really worthwhile and wonderful. The child you support will touch your life, and you will be blessed beyond your imagination.
And with that being said, can you guarantee that total transparency of the financials and funds, Ron?
Yes, I can. Because of the 18 years of working in China, and by giving the reporting system that we have in place with the Chinese Agape Foundation, there is total transparency. The 990 form that is filed annually with the federal government in the United States gives every detail that everyone could want. Then I will also have financial reports every month in our newsletter and on our website. There's no question that anybody can see that there is total transparency.
Thanks, Ron, for that great information. We will be right back after a quick break with Who Are America's Heroes right after this. Human trafficking is the second largest crime in the world next to drug trafficking and a $32 billion business involving 27 million people. Fight this horrible crime. To give potential victims a better life, call 1-678-877-6300 or contact Save Asian Souls at save-asia-souls.org. No human desires or deserves to be a slave or prostitute. Millions today have no choice. Welcome back to Who Are America's Heroes? We have Ron Brown and Julia Ng. And Ron, what percentage of donations, the $30 a month, go back to victims?
The donations from sponsors, who are individual sponsors of individual children, 100% will go to them. Of course, there is overhead for workers in China, Cambodia, and Thailand, and there's travel expense of going to the different cities to find the children and going through the process of finding the children. The process is not short. It takes some time. There will be donors, such as a wealthy man that likes to help, who give major contributions, like $60,000 a year. And then we have some foundations that are interested in this work that will be paying all of that overhead. So that permits us to take the $30 and concentrate it totally upon the child, upon their food, their clothing, their medical care, everything they need to sustain their lives, and to give them some vocational training so that they can be useful in society, get rid of the depression that they have and the horrible image of their self-image, and have an opportunity to live a decent life.
Yes, that's the kind of system we have in Chinese Agape as well, which of course Ron set up 18 years ago, where we have different funds, the general fund and the orphan fund. So sponsors' money every month will go into this orphan fund, and 100% of this orphan fund goes to the children. The overheads of the foundation, the Chinese Agape Foundation, are paid from the general fund, and that's a totally separate purpose.
So 100% of funds. And with that being said, you have travel expenses. I'm sure you have teachers to pay and provide, transportation as well. How do you maintain overhead costs and keep that overhead cost low?
Well, there are a lot of different ways, but I guess the main way is to have good volunteers like Julia. They're hard to find, but to find real good ones, it's worth the time and the effort. And there are other volunteers that have worked for us for periods of time, and then because of their age or some other interest they have, they've dropped out. But there are always good volunteers.
Yes.
We have churches all over Asia. Take, for example, Nepal. They had a horrible earthquake on April the 25th, and 9,000 people died. And I sent $26,000 just to Nepal to help the people that were members of our church in Nepal to rebuild their homes, to rebuild the churches, and to feed them for a period of time. But they will be workers now for us in the future to find something like 20,000 children that will leave Nepal every year and possibly go into trafficking in other countries. Recently in New Delhi, in the airport, the police found 17 Nepalese girls in the airport. Where were they going? They were going from Kathmandu to New Delhi and to Dubai to become prostitutes.
And working in the slave trade.
That's
Is that
right.
correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay. And with these volunteers, with the people helping you, will you be traveling back and forth to Asia to really oversee the work that's being done?
Yes, I will go at least once a year to be able to say, hey, to my sponsors and to the people I'm trying to get to sponsor, I've seen these children, I know their conditions, and we are following up with them.
Yeah. I would like to add that it's really important to get sponsors because, to get volunteers because we are operating on as low a cost as we can. I mean, I'm speaking for Chinese Agape, but I know that Ron's intention for Save Asian Souls is the same. And I can say from my experience that there are a lot of volunteers available. They may not be able to work full time, but there are many people who want to help, you know, people who are in our churches, people who realize the horrible crimes that are being committed against children. I mean, people like you, people like anybody watching, they can volunteer to help. Even in terms of translation, in terms of coming to the homes to give a week of their time to help the children, to encourage the children, to help in the building maintenance work of the orphanages or of the centers that Ron will be building for Save Asian Souls. So it is really critical for people in the world to help us, you know, not just in terms of the financial support, but also in terms of your time and your energy. Please come to help us.
And you proved this as well in your transition from your previous position into Chinese Agape Foundation, which is amazing. It's such an effort. And Save Asian Souls Foundation, it's a 501c3 foundation. Who do you see in the future helping with your foundation? Who's going to step into your shoes?
Well, I'll be looking for a man that is willing to be outstanding in helping other people, that he's willing to sacrifice, because it takes sacrifice. That's important. If they're not willing to sacrifice, they don't need to be even volunteering. So I'll be looking for a man that can carry on the heritage of the foundation and continue to do the good work and to save these children that are 27 million around the world, average age 14 years. They're just innocent little children that don't have a hope in life unless we give them some hope.
Absolutely, and it's great work that you guys are doing, that you're putting the time, you're putting the effort. But will you be cooperating with other organizations, other foundations to really fight this battle against human trafficking?
Yes. For example, airline ambassadors have already contacted me and said, hey, we want to be a part of your work. We want to send missions of flight attendants into Cambodia. We want to send some to Thailand. So they're going to conduct missions, and they fly free. There's no charge for them to fly. And they can go and work and be involved for several weeks on each one of those tours. Then the Jackson Family Foundation in Atlanta, Georgia says, we want to be involved. Family Christian Bookstores in Michigan says, we want to be involved. So all of these are volunteers that are being incorporated into our work, and they are extremely important. And maybe someone listening to the program today would like to let me know. I would like to be a volunteer and be a part of it.
Yes. And it is impossible for one organization or one person to do everything. Right. We just need the help of everybody.
Of course. And for those of you tuning in, what would you say your goal is out of this production?
We want to save as many of the children as we can from a horrible, horrible life of prostitution, or pornography films, or pornography pictures, and slave labor like in India and in Thailand. They don't have a chance in life unless we give them an opportunity to have a life. So if we can do that, it's worth it. Even though it might be a small number compared to the total 27 million that are located all over the world, it's a beginning. And with other organizations, we can make an impact upon it.
I know Chinese Agape Foundation was involved with patients medically. Does Save Asian Souls Foundation plan to help? How will they help?
Okay, we will be involved medically also. There are many children in many of these third world countries that have congenital heart disease. And a child that has congenital heart disease normally will never live beyond 20 years of age. So we have to get to them and try to bring them to the United States in most cases, because it's cheaper to do it that way than to try to do it in Asia. There are not enough hospitals that do congenital heart disease successfully, even in China. We will work primarily in Cambodia, Thailand, the Philippines, and other countries, and not in China, since Julia and them can cover the work in China. But we will, in other countries, be offering medical aid. Just in the past 18 years, we've completed almost 500 open heart surgery cases. We've completed over 1,000 cleft palate surgeries. And that doesn't even include the burn surgeries, which are very bad. We have like 3 patients right now in the burn center that are receiving treatment for burns.
In the U.S.
In the U.S.
And these burns are from escaping or?
No. In China, you have to realize that the family is in one room and it's a dirt floor, and they have a fire in the middle of the floor. That's where they cook their food and everything. Well, a small child will fall into the fire. Or we had one little boy that his mother spilt boiling water across his head. So these accidents occur when you live in a third world country. It's horrible. And the children are just innocent victims of circumstances which are beyond their control.
It's amazing the effort you're putting in and the amount of time you've sacrificed for this foundation, for Chinese Agape Foundation. What do you see your most valued goal at this point?
Well, to continue the work that I've outlined of trying to reach out to these children and find them an opportunity to have a life. They don't have a life, and they have no opportunity to have a life. And when I think about 27 million that are around the world that are just children, I mean, they are small children. They're malnourished, they're suffering. That breaks my heart.
Absolutely. And as we near the end of the show, please tell viewers how they can help.
Okay, yes. Each one that is listening to this program can become a part of this program by becoming a donor for a particular child, a sponsor for a particular child. Just like in the work that Julia is involved in, they can be involved in other countries, and she will continue to work in China, of course, and we want that work to continue without question. So they need to make contact with me by writing to me at ronbrown20@gmail.com. Or they can go to the website and make an application through the website. Or they can give us a phone call and make application that way. We will get in contact with them, and we will assign them a child, and we will follow up with them and give them the reports they need in order to be successful.
Julia, thank you for joining. Ron, you truly are an American hero. This is Who Are America's Heroes. Please join Ron's efforts. It's a worthwhile endeavor, and you will be blessed. I'm Joanna Bates. Thank you. See you next time on Who Are America's Heroes. Human trafficking is the second largest crime in the world next to drug trafficking and a $32 billion business involving 27 million people. Fight this horrible crime. To give potential victims a better life, call 1-678-877-6300 or contact Save Asian Souls at save-asia-souls.org. No human desires or deserves to be a slave or prostitute. Millions today have no choice.